Hi everybody, Michelle McClunan here. I'm an astrologer and a life coach, and I do these updates once every 2 weeks or so when we have a full moon or new moon, which basically sets the scene for the next few weeks. Astrology really, if you don't know me and you don't know about astrology, astrology is the study of energy, and everything has an energy. We are energy, everything's energy. So we respond to the energy around us, and the energy around us responds to us. So when we actually can connect with what's going on energetically, we can actually bring ourselves into alignment with what's going on. So I tune into that energy by looking at the chart and also by my own intuitive knowing, and then I try and bring some navigational suggestions on how to actually deal with the energy and navigate the energy. So this week we're going to be looking at the lunar eclipse, which is happening on the 19th of November. And a lunar eclipse is basically a full moon on steroids. We have eclipse seasons, and we've just entered into this new eclipse season. And this eclipse season is going to be falling on the axis of Scorpio, Taurus for the next 2 years, because they have 2-year kind of cycles. An eclipse is always happens when it's aligned with something called the nodes of the moon. And that's what's actually happening. The nodes of the moon are moving onto the axis of Taurus, Scorpio. This doesn't happen all the time. Eclipses are always much more powerful than a normal full moon or a normal new moon. So lunar eclipse is a full moon, which means the sun is opposite to the moon, but the results of it can be felt a lot longer, and they always link back to about 19 years prior. So 19 years prior would be November 2002 or thereabouts, and you might find that if you look back on your life, you were navigating similar themes back then. And it would be seen in your natal chart in terms of the place that was happening in your natal chart, in terms of, if we look at astrology, in the house that it was happening, the area of your life where it was happening. So you can always tune in with me and book a session to see where this eclipse season is actually playing out, because it's going to be playing out for the next 2 years. But collectively, we're all feeling this, okay? So this full moon lunar eclipse, it's quite an interesting one. It's got a lot of fixed energy. Fixed energy is very enduring, it's very sustainable, but it can also be very resistant. And as we know, on our planet, we're seeing a lot of resistance. Depending on where you are, what you're doing, there are many, many polarizations right now. There's a lot of resistance happening. If you look at it sort of in a bigger way, a lunar eclipse is a portal. And this one particularly, because it's on the Scorpio Taurus axis, it's very much about transformation, awakening, acceleration of consciousness. And that's going to be a theme that plays out over the next few years. So when we look at the components of this full moon, let's just look at Scorpio first. So Scorpio being where the sun is right now, Scorpio, and there's a lot of Scorpio energy around right now, because we've got the sun, we've got Mercury, and we've got Mars all in Scorpio. The ancient ruler of Scorpio is Mars, which is basically the planet of war. And I think that many of you will agree that there seems to be a very warlike energy on our planet right now. And as I said just now, a lot of polarization, a lot of separation, a lot of resistance. So Scorpio is aligned with the word transformation, transmutation. It also is a sign that is connected with the shadow, with the shadow of us, our shadow, with the collective shadow. What is underneath the surface which needs to be cleared? So I've spoken about this a lot in videos over the months and over the years. But the shadow, the collective shadow, is being exposed right now. So what was hidden is coming to the surface little bit by little bit. At the moment, that's accelerating. So what we held to be true and real and safe is being questioned and is coming out as possibly not true. So we're really kind of finding ourselves, many of us, in a state of unknowing, not knowing, a sort of a state where the old is no longer viable and the new hasn't really been born yet. So I'm leading up to something here which I feel is very important. So Scorpio really refers to intensity. It refers to going underneath the surface, exposing the shadow, shining a light into those corners and bringing it up to the surface. Okay. Taurus, which is opposite the sun in Scorpio, Taurus moon, the moon in Taurus is actually very happy. It's a very good, if you classify good and bad, it's a positive full moon. Okay. Taurus is the sign that is connected with our earth, with our finances, with our food, with Mother Nature, with agriculture, with safety, security. It's really the earth planet, okay? So it's a fixed earth sign. So at full moon, especially at a lunar eclipse, things can come to a head for clearing and to see what's actually going on. So I feel that in the next few weeks and the next few months, even more is going to be exposed. Even more is going to be brought to the surface. And a lot of people are finding that very confusing. A lot of people feel like they're losing their heads. There is a fixed sign associated with this full moon as well called Algol, which is known for losing one's head, not literally, but actually just sort of spinning out and not knowing what's true and what's not true, and not knowing what to do about what's going on. A lot of people are saying, what do we do? What do we do? We feel stuck. We don't know how to move forward. What do we do? So over the next year and over the next 2 years, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes to the way our finances work, to the way our food supply works, to the way we deal with Mother Nature, the way we deal with each other. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year and the following year, because the US actually has what we call a Pluto return, which is really where, it's kind of the death of the old and the birth of something new. And so that's going to have very big effects on the economy and the constitution and all sorts of things. And then that kind of ripples out into the world. So going back to this lunar eclipse, the sun is over here, the moon is over here, they're opposite each other, and then they're being squared by Jupiter. Jupiter's in the sign of Aquarius, which represents community, which represents the new way of actually building community. So it's very strong. This is a very strong full moon lunar eclipse. The other thing that's happening this full moon is we've got the ruler of the moon, Venus, which is the planet of partnership. It's the planet of love. It's the planet of being together in love. And that's in the sign of Capricorn, which is the sign of the builder. Venus is in a trine, which is a favorable aspect, it's a flowing aspect to Uranus, which is the planet of change, which is the ruler of Aquarius. So what that says to me is that if we stand together as community, we can bring change. If we stand together as community, we can actually envision a new earth, Venus, Taurus. So it's envisioning a new earth together as community. That's what I see, not just this eclipse, but the whole eclipse cycle that's going to be happening over the next 2 years. So where do we stand? How do we stand? What role are we going to play in the new earth? Do we want to stand together as community? Do we want to be separate? Do we want freedom and liberation, or do we want to be slaves? Do we want to feel that we're actually free, sovereign beings, or do we want to feel that we're trapped in a system which really does not work anymore, which is busy dying? So this morning I was sitting having my coffee and watching nature, as I try and do when the weather's good, and just watching the trees gently swaying in the breeze and sort of reflecting on what I wanted to talk about today. And I came up with that the way to navigate these times for all of us is to stand firm but flexible, to stand firm amidst the storm, amidst the shadow, in the middle of the shadow. not to resist it and say, why is this happening? Why is there a shadow? There's a shadow. It's coming up. Our shadows are coming up. So when a shadow comes up collectively, it's simply reflecting shadows that we have inside ourselves. So when we resist, we're resisting ourselves. We're resisting what's happening. So I just sort of considered a bit, and then bamboo sort of came to mind. And if you look at bamboo, bamboo is an amazing plant. First of all, it sways. It's one of the strongest building materials that we can actually use. It's extremely strongly rooted, but very, very flexible, which is why it's used in building. And it's used actually as scaffolds, because it's actually able to go, it's able to actually give. It's got a flexibility, but it's very, very strong. The other things about bamboo is I looked up a few things. Obviously it bends, but it doesn't break. It's firmly rooted. The foundations are very, very solid. It takes a while for the plant to actually come up. In the meantime, the roots are actually getting very, very strong. It's able to endure cold, hot, in some climates, snow, very extreme temperatures, typhoons, storms. It stands, it endures. It might not look very strong. It might not look as strong as, say, a beautiful big old oak tree, but it's often it's even stronger. It tells us that even though we don't necessarily look strong or feel like we've got a role, we have an inner strength. And that inner strength is emptiness. It's presence. It's being able to spring back, be resilient, stand amongst adversity. In fact, in Japan, apparently they use it as a symbol for the new year, because it's the springing back each year into a new year. It also tells us of wisdom in emptiness, that the more we empty our preconceived notions, our preconditioned responses, the more we clear our shadow, the shadows on the wall, the emptier our cup is, and the more open we are to possibilities. So for me, it says, stay open to possibilities. Everything's changing. Anything can happen on our planet right now. And it's up to us, not out there. It's up to us. This is our journey, and we have to show up for it. So how do we do that? We commit to continuous growth, which is what the bamboo does. It just grows. It tells us to say, how am I growing through this adversity? So wherever you are, whatever you're processing, whatever you're navigating at the moment, just to ask, how am I growing through this? Might not be pleasant, might not be easy, might look really stormy, might feel very, very wobbly, but how can I grow through this? Because we're all on a journey of growth, of soul evolution, especially now. This is an evolution of human consciousness. We're growing into something new. How can I simplify my life? Bamboo is quite a simple plant. It's not very complicated. It's got a big empty stalk. How can I simplify? How can I get rid of the extraneous stuff that doesn't really belong, that doesn't serve me? And how can I stand firm but flexible? And then the other thing is that bamboo is a colony plant. It uses its energy from the existing plant to grow more plants and expand its root structure. So what I would like to suggest is that if you want to be part of this new earth, of building a new earth, which means envisaging a new earth, then we need to stand together to do that. Because it's not possible to only do it with one person, one being. It helps, it absolutely feeds the field, but the more we can actually gather, the more we can gather groups around us, the more we can gather community around us, the stronger we are. And I think a lot has happened over the last couple of years, which has just thrown everybody. And we've been trying to navigate our way through it and say, what's going on? What's going on? This world seems like it's gone completely nuts. And there's been a lot of focus on what's going on. Let's try and find out what's going on and seeing if we can understand what's going on. And I think we've already done that. Now it's our job, I see it. It's our role individually and collectively to say, what do we want for our future? How can we envisage and envision a new future and put our energy into growing that, as opposed to putting our energy into what's going on, what's been going on, all the hideousness that's going on? How can we actually stand together and say, right, let's have a vision for a new future? So by us raising our vibration individually and together, it creates a new field. It creates a brand new earth. So again, I'm saying it's not up to anybody else. Nobody's going to come and save us. This is up to us to build a new earth. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to build a new earth? How are you going to build a new earth? What is your role in building this? How do you want to stand? Where do you want to stand? What do you stand for? What kind of earth do you want for your children, for your grandchildren, for your great-grandchildren? And it's about visioning and tapping into that as an energy. So if we want freedom, then we need to tap into the vibration of freedom. If we want joy, we need to tap into the vibration of joy over and over and over and over again, as many times as we can. And that then creates the ripple effect that changes our earth. So we're going to be doing more of this over the next few months, and maybe over the next few years, who knows. We already have a community that's building on Facebook. Every Sunday we connect at 7:30, and we're going to be focusing more on building our community by standing together and feeling into what we want to see in the world. So we'd like to really, really invite you to join us. Every Sunday we stand together. We do record the session and put it out the next day, but it is better if you're actually there, because there is strength in numbers. Just like the bamboo, we can stand together and it actually strengthens that field. And if you can create a group here and you can create a group there, 5 people, 10 people, 2 people, 3 people, do it. Whether it's in person, whether it's online, those groups of people are going to be what manifests into what we want to see. And as opposed to standing in the shadows and just saying, oh my God, we're in the shadows. Let's create what we want. So please join us. I'm going to put the link below for you to join us on a Sunday night. And also you can join our WhatsApp group where we actually post reminders and we post the recording the next day. So I'll put that link down below as well. And if you can't get it for any reason, then you can go onto our website, journeysofawakening.com, and you'll see the WhatsApp link there for you to join us. We're also going to be starting a Telegram channel quite soon so that we actually have an alternative to WhatsApp as well. And we also have a beautiful community called the Inner Space Community, which we would also encourage you to join, because again, that's going to be an emphasis on our Inner Space community. We already have an amazing community and we invite you to join us. It's a monthly commitment and you get a lot of value for that. There's a lot of community, beautiful stuff going on in our community. You get meditations, you get creative exercises, you get projects, you get meditations, all sorts of beautiful inspirations on that community. So join us there. It's beautiful. And then we will be starting, John and I will be launching another Journey to Freedom course on January the 27th, which is a powerful day. I've looked at it astrologically and it's the right day to launch. I think it's a Thursday if I'm not mistaken. So please have a look at that as well. We'll be opening bookings soon for that. You can always email us if you have any queries or if you have any questions about that. And then I'm available till sort of early December for readings. So if you want to see where you are in amongst all of this and what your role could be and what's changing for you and what's up for you in terms of this eclipse season as I say, which is going to last for 2 years, then you're welcome to try and schedule a meeting session with me. If you've had your chart done before, then we do an update stroke coaching session or navigational session. Full moons are always a time for letting go, and if things are coming to a head for you, stand firm. Put that root down further. Thank you for listening. Lots of love.